My friend Kamala is coming up on one of the last major fundraising deadlines before Election Day. So when I say that your donation will go a long way, I really mean it.
I'm sorry to keep everybody waiting. 16 months ago, in April of 2023, I launched my campaign for President of the United States. I began this journey as a Democrat, the party of my father, my uncle, the party which I pledged my own allegiance to long before I was old enough to vote. I attended my first Democratic convention at the age of 6 in 1960. And back then, the Democrats were the champions of the Constitution, of civil rights. The Democrats stood against authoritarianism, against censorship, against colonialism, imperialism, and unjust wars. We were the party of labor, of the working class. The Democrats were the party of government transparency and the champion of the environment. Our party was the bulwark against big money interests and corporate power. True to its name, it was the party of democracy. As you know, I left that party in October because it had departed so dramatically from the core values that I grew up with. It had become the party of war, censorship, corruption, big pharma, big tech, big ag, and big money. When it abandoned democracy by canceling the primary to conceal the cognitive decline of the sitting president, I left the party to run as an independent. The mainstream of American politics and journalism derided my decision. Conventional wisdom said that it would be impossible even to get on the ballot as an independent because each state poses an insurmountable tangle of arbitrary rules for collecting signatures. I would need over 1 million signatures, something no presidential candidate in history had ever achieved. And then I'd need a team of attorneys and millions of dollars to handle all the legal challenges from the DNC. The naysayers told us that we were climbing a glass version of Mount Impossible. So the first thing I want to tell you is that we proved them wrong. We did it because beneath the radar of mainstream media organs, we inspired a massive independent political movement. More than 100,000 volunteers sprang into action, hopeful that they could reverse our nation's decline. Many worked 10-hour days, sometimes in blizzards and blazing heat. They sacrificed family time, personal commitments, and sleep month after month, energized by a shared vision of a nation healed of its divisions. They set up tables at churches and farmers' markets. They canvassed door to door. In Utah and in New Hampshire, volunteers collected signatures in snowstorms, convincing each supporter to stop in the frigid cold, to take off their gloves, and to sign legibly. During a heat wave in Nevada, I met a tall, athletic volunteer who cheerfully told me that he had lost 25 pounds collecting signatures in 117-degree heat. To finance this effort, young Americans donated their lunch money, and senior citizens gave up part of their Social Security checks. Our 50-state organization collected those millions of signatures and more. No presidential campaign in American political history has ever done that. And so I want to thank all of those dedicated volunteers and congratulate the campaign staff who coordinated this enormous logistical feat. Your accomplishments were regarded as impossible. You carried me up that glass mountain. You pulled off a miracle. You achieved what all the pundits said could never be done. You have my deepest gratitude, and I'm never going to forget that, not just for what you did for my campaign, but for the sacrifices you made because you love our country. You showed everyone that democracy is still possible here. It continues to survive in the press and in the idealistic human energies that still thrive beneath a canvas of neglect and of official and institutional corruption. Today, I'm here to tell you that I will not allow your efforts to go to waste. I'm here to tell you that I will leverage your tremendous accomplishments to serve the ideals that we share, the ideals of peace, of prosperity, of freedom, of health, all the ideals that motivated my campaign. I'm here today to describe the path forward that you've opened with your commitment and with your hard labors. Now, in an honest system, I believe that I would have won the election. In a system the kind that my father and my uncles thrived in, a system with open debates, with fair primaries, with regularly scheduled debates, with fair primaries, and with a truly independent media untainted by government propaganda and censorship. In a system of nonpartisan courts and election boards, everything would be different. After all, the polls consistently showed me beating each of the other candidates, both in favorability and also in head-to-head matchups. But I'm sorry to say that while democracy may still be alive at the grassroots, it has become little more than a slogan for our political institutions, for our media, and for our government, and most sadly at all for me, for the Democratic Party. In the name of saving democracy, the Democratic Party set itself to dismantling it, lacking confidence in its candidate, that its candidate could win in a fair election at the voting booth. The DNC waged continual legal warfare against both President Trump and myself. Each time that our volunteers turned in those towering boxes of signatures needed to get on the ballot, the DNC dragged us into court, state after state, attempting to erase their work and to subvert the will of the voters who had signed those petitions. It deployed DNC-aligned judges to throw me and other candidates off the ballot and to throw President Trump in jail. It ran a sham primary that was rigged to prevent any serious challenge to President Biden. Then, when a predictably bungled debate performance precipitated the palace coup against President Biden, the same shadowy DNC operatives appointed his successor, also without an election. They installed a candidate who was so unpopular with voters that she dropped out in 2020 without winning a single delegate. My uncle and my father both relished debate. They prided themselves on their capacity to go toe-to-toe with any opponent in the battle over ideas. They would be astonished to learn of a Democratic Party presidential nominee who, like Vice President Harris, has not appeared in a single interview or an unscripted encounter with voters for 35 days. This is profoundly undemocratic. How are people to choose when they don't know whom they are choosing? And how can this look to the rest of the world? My father and my uncle were always conscious of America's image abroad because of our nation's role as the template for democracy, the role model for democratic processes, and the leader of the free world. Instead of showing us her substance and character, the DNC and its media organs engineered a surge of popularity for Vice President Harris based upon, well, nothing. No policies, no interviews, no debates, only smoke and mirrors and balloons in a highly produced Chicago circus. There in Chicago, a string of Democratic speakers mentioned Donald Trump 147 times just on the first day. Oh, who needs a policy when you have Trump to hate? In contrast, at the RNC convention, President Biden was mentioned only twice in 4 days. I do interviews every day. Many of you have interviewed me. Anybody who asks gets to interview me. Some days I do as many as 10. President Trump, who actually was nominated and won an election, also does interviews daily. How did the Democratic Party choose a candidate that has never done an interview or debate during the entire election cycle? We know the answers. They did it by weaponizing the government agencies. They did it by abandoning democracy. They did it by suing the opposition and by disenfranchising American voters. What most alarms me isn't how the Democratic Party conducts its internal affairs or runs its candidates. What alarms me is the resort to censorship and media control and the weaponization of the federal agencies. When a U.S. president colludes with or outright coerces media companies to censor political speech, it's an attack on our most sacred right of free expression, and that's the very right upon which all of our other constitutional rights rest. President Biden mocked Vladimir Putin's 88% landslide in the Russian elections, observing that Putin and his party controlled the Russian press, and that Putin prevented serious opponents from appearing on the ballot. But here in America, the DNC also prevented opponents from appearing on the ballot. And our television networks expose themselves as Democratic Party organs. Over the course of more than a year, in a campaign where my poll numbers reached at times in the high 20s, the DNC-allied mainstream media networks maintain a near-perfect embargo on interviews with me. During his 10-month presidential campaign in 1992, Ross Perot gave 34 interviews on mainstream networks. In contrast, during the 16 months since I declared, ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, and CNN combined gave only 2 live interviews from me. Those networks instead ran a continuous deluge of hit pieces with inaccurate, often vile, pejoratives and defamatory smears. Some of those same networks and colluded with the DNC to keep me off the debate stage. Representatives of those networks are in this room right now, and I'll just take a moment to ask you to consider the many ways that your institutions have abdicated this really sacred responsibility, the duty of a free press to safeguard democracy and to challenge always the party in power. Instead of maintaining that posture of fierce skepticism toward authority, your institutions have made themselves government mouthpieces and stenographers for the organs of power. You didn't alone cause the devolution of American democracy, but you could have prevented it. The Democratic Party's censorship of social media was even more of a naked exercise of executive power. This week, a federal judge, Terry Doty, upheld my injunction against President Biden, calling the White House's censorship project, quote, the most egregious violation of the First Amendment in the history of the United States of America. Doty's previous 155-page decision details how just 37 hours after he took the oath of office, swearing to uphold the Constitution, President Biden and his White House opened up a portal and then invited the CIA, the FBI, CISA, which is a censorship agency, it's the center of the censorship industrial complex, DHS, the IRS, and other agencies to censor me and other political dissidents on social media. Even today, users who try to post my campaign videos to Facebook or YouTube get messages that this content violates community standards. 2 days after Judge Doty rendered his decision this week, Facebook was still attaching warning labels to an online petition calling on ABC to include me in the upcoming debate. They said that violates community standards, their community standards. The mainstream media was once the guardian of the First Amendment and democratic principles. and it's joined this systemic attack on democracy. It also, the media justifies their censorship on the grounds of combating misinformation, but governments and oppressors don't censor lies. They don't fear lies. They fear the truth, and that's what they censor. And I don't want any of this to sound like a personal complaint, because it's not. For me, it's all part of a journey, and it's a journey that I signed up with. But I need to make these observations because I think they're critical for us doing the thing that we need to do as citizens in a democracy to assess where we are in this country and what our democracy still looks like, and the assumptions about U.S. leadership around the globe. And are we living up, are we really still a role model for democracy in this country? Or have we made it, a kind of a joke? And here's the good news. While mainstream outlets denied me a critical platform, they didn't shut down my ideas, which have especially flourished among young voters and independent voters, thanks to the alternative media. Many months ago, I promised the American people that I would withdraw from the race if I became a spoiler. A spoiler is someone who will alter the outcome of the election but has no chance of winning. In my heart, I no longer believe that I have a realistic path to electoral victory in the face of this relentless systematic censorship and media control. So I cannot in good conscience ask my staff and volunteers to keep working their long hours or ask my donors to keep giving when I cannot honestly tell them that I have a real path to the White House. Furthermore, our polling consistently showed that by staying on the ballot in the battleground states, I would likely hand the election over to the Democrats, with whom I disagree on the most existential issues: censorship, war, and chronic disease. Oh, I want everyone to know that I am not terminating my campaign. I am simply suspending it and not ending it. My name will remain on the ballot in most states. If you live in a blue state, you can vote for me without harming or helping President Trump or Vice President Harris. In red states, the same will apply. I encourage you to vote for me. And if enough of you do vote for me, and neither of the major party candidates win 270 votes, which is quite possible. In fact, today our polling shows them tying at 269 to 269. And I could conceivably still end up in the White House in a contingent election. But in about 10 battleground states where my presence would be a spoiler, I'm going to remove my name. And I've already started that process and urge voters not to vote for me. It's with a sense of victory and not defeat that I'm suspending my campaign activities. Not only did we do the impossible by collecting 1 million signatures, we changed the national political conversation forever. Chronic disease, free speech, government corruption, breaking our addiction to war have moved to the center of politics. I can say to all who have worked so hard the last year and a half, thank you for a job well done. 3 great causes drove me to enter this race in the first place, primarily. And these are the principal causes that persuaded me to leave the Democratic Party and run as an independent. And now to throw my support to President Trump. The causes were free speech, the war in Ukraine, and the war on our children. I've already described some of my personal experiences and struggles with the government's censorship industrial complex. I want to say a word about the Ukraine war. The military industrial complex has provided us with a familiar comic book justification, like they do on every war, that this one is a noble effort to stop a supervillain, Vladimir Putin, from invading the Ukraine and then to thwart his Hitler-like march across Europe. In fact, tiny Ukraine is a proxy in a geopolitical struggle initiated by the ambitions of the U.S. neocons for American global hegemony. I'm not excusing Putin for invading Ukraine. He had other options. But the war is Russia's predictable response to the reckless neocon project of extending NATO to encircle Russia, a hostile act. The credulous media rarely explain to Americans that we unilaterally walked away from 2 intermediate nuclear weapons treaties with Russia and then put nuclear-ready Aegis missile systems in Romania and Poland. This is a hostile act. And that the Biden White House repeatedly spurned Russia's offer to settle this war peacefully. The Ukraine war began in 2014 when U.S. agencies overthrew the democratically elected government of Ukraine and installed a hand-picked pro-Western government that launched a deadly civil war against ethnic Russians in Ukraine. In 2019, America walked away from a peace treaty, the Minsk Agreement, that had been negotiated between Russia and Ukraine by European nations. And then in April of 2022, we wanted the war. In April of 2022, President Biden sent Boris Johnson to Ukraine to force President Zelensky to tear up a peace agreement that he and the Russians had already signed, and the Russians were withdrawing troops from Kiev and Donbass and Lugansk. And that peace agreement would have brought peace to the region and would have allowed Donbass and Lugansk to remain part of Ukraine. President Biden stated that month that his objective in the war was regime change in Russia. His Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin, simultaneously explained that America's purpose in the war was to exhaust the Russian army, to degrade its capacity to fight anywhere else in the world. These objectives, of course, have nothing to do with what they were telling Americans about protecting Ukraine's sovereignty. Ukraine is a victim in this war, and it's a victim of the West. Since then, of Russia and both Russia and the West. Since then, we have, since tearing up that agreement, forcing Zelensky to tear up the agreement, we've squandered the flower of Ukrainian youth, as many as 600,000 Ukrainian kids and over 100,000 Russian kids, all of whom we should be mourning, have died, and the Ukraine's infrastructure is destroyed. The war has been a disaster for our country as well. We squandered nearly $200 billion already, and these are badly needed dollars in our communities, suffering communities all over our country. The Nord Stream pipeline sabotage and the sanctions have destroyed Europe's industrial base, which formed the bulwark of U.S. national security. A strong Germany with a strong industry is a much, much stronger deterrent to Russia, and a Germany that is deindustrialized and turned into just an extension of U.S. military base. We've pushed Russia into a disastrous alliance with China and Iran. We're closer to the brink of nuclear exchange than at any time since 1962. And the neocons in the White House don't seem to care at all. Our moral authority and our economy are in shambles, and the war gave rise to the emergence of BRICS, which now threatens to replace the dollar as the global reserve currency. This is a first-class calamity for our country. Judging by her bellicose, belligerent speech last night in Chicago, we can assume that President Harris will be an enthusiastic advocate for this and other neocon military adventures. And President Trump says that he will reopen negotiations with President Putin and end the war overnight as soon as he becomes president. This alone would justify my support for his campaign. Last summer, it looked like no candidate was willing to negotiate a quick end to the Ukraine war, to tackle chronic disease epidemic, to protect free speech, our constitutional freedoms, to clean corporate influence out of our government, or to defy the neocons and their agenda of endless military adventurism. But now one of the two candidates has adopted these issues as his own, to the point where he has asked to enlist me in his administration. I'm speaking, of course, of Donald Trump. Less than 2 hours after President Trump narrowly escaped assassination, Callie Means called me on my cell phone. I was then in Las Vegas. Callie is arguably the leading advocate for food safety, for soil regeneration, and for ending the chronic disease epidemic that is destroying America's health and ruining our economy. Callie has exposed the insidious corruption at the FDA, the NIH, the HHS, and the USDA that has caused the epidemic. Callie had been working on and off for my campaign, advising me on those subjects since the beginning. And those subjects have been my primary focus for the last 20 years. I was delighted when Callie told me that day that he had also been advising President Trump. He told me President Trump was anxious to talk to me about chronic disease and other subjects, and to explore avenues of cooperation. He asked if I would take a call from the president. President Trump telephoned me a few minutes later, and I met with him the following day. A few weeks later, I met again with President Trump and his family members and closest advisors in Florida. In a series of long, intense discussions, I was surprised to discover that we are aligned on many key issues. In those meetings, he suggested that we join forces as a unity party. We talked about Abraham Lincoln's team of rivals. That arrangement would allow us to disagree publicly and privately, and fiercely, if need be, on issues over which we differ, while working together on the existential issues upon which we are in concordance. I was a ferocious critic of many of the policies during his first administration, and there are still issues and approaches upon which we continue to have very serious differences. But we are aligned with each other on other key issues, like ending the forever wars, ending the childhood disease epidemics, securing the border, protecting freedom of speech, unraveling the corporate capture of our regulatory agencies, getting the U.S. intelligence agencies out of the business of propagandizing and censoring and surveilling Americans and interfering with our elections. Following my first discussion with President Trump, I tried unsuccessfully to open similar discussions with Vice President Harris. Vice President Harris declined to meet or even to speak with me. Suspending my candidacy is a heart-rending decision for me, but I'm convinced that it's the best hope for ending the Ukraine war and ending the chronic disease epidemic that is eroding our nation's vitality from the inside, and for finally protecting free speech. I feel a moral obligation to use this opportunity to save millions of American children above all things. In case some of you don't realize how dire the condition is of our children's health and chronic disease in general, I would urge you to view Dr. Carlson's recent interview with Callie Means and his sister, Dr. Casey Means, who is the top graduate of her class at Stanford Medical School. This is an issue that affects all of us far more directly and urgently than any culture war issue and all the other issues that we obsess on and that are tearing apart our country. This is the most important issue. Therefore, it has the potential to bring us together. So let me share a little bit about why I believe it's so urgent. Today, 2/3, we spend more on healthcare than any country on earth, twice what they pay in Europe. And yet we have the worst health outcomes of any nation in the world. We're about 79th in health outcomes behind Costa Rica and Nicaragua and Mongolia and other countries. Nobody has a chronic disease burden like we have. And during the COVID epidemic, we had the highest body count of any country in the world. We had 16% of the COVID deaths, and we only have 4.2% of the world's population. And CDC says that's because we are the sickest people on earth. We have the highest chronic disease rate on earth. And the average American who died from COVID had 3.8 chronic diseases. So these were people who had immune system collapse, who had mitochondrial dysfunction. And no other country has anything like this. 2/3 of American adults and children suffer from chronic health issues. 50 years ago, that number was less than 1%. So we've gone from 1% to 66%. In America, 74% of Americans are now overweight or obese, and 50% of our children. 120 years ago, when somebody was obese, they were sent to the circus. There were case reports done about them. Obesity was almost unknown. In Japan, the childhood obesity rate is 3% compared to 50% here. Half of Americans have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. When my uncle was president, I was a boy. Juvenile diabetes was effectively non-existent. A typical pediatrician would see one case of diabetes during his entire career, a 40 or 50-year career. Today, 1 out of every 3 kids who walks through his office door is diabetic or pre-diabetic. And the mitochondrial disorder that caused diabetes also causing Alzheimer's, which is now classified as diabetes. And it's costing this country more than our military budget every year. There's been an explosion of neurological illnesses that I never saw as a kid: ADD, ADHD, speech delay, language delay, Tourette syndrome, narcolepsy, ASD, Asperger's, autism. In the year 2000, the autism rate was 1 in 1,500. Now autism rates in kids are 1 in 36, according to CDC nationally. Nobody's talking about this. 1 in every 22 kids in California has autism. And this is a crisis that 77% of our kids are too disabled to serve in the United States military. What is happening to our country? And why isn't this in the headlines every single day? There's nobody else in the world that is experiencing this. This is only happening in America. About 18%, and by the way, there has been no change in diagnosis, which the industry sometimes like to say. There has been no change in screening. This is a change in incidence. In my generation, 70-year-old men, the autism rates are about 1 in 10,000. In my kids' generation, 1 in 34. I'll repeat, in California, 1 in 22. Why are we letting this happen? Why are we allowing this to happen to our children? These are the most precious assets that we have in this country. How can we let this happen to them? About 18% of American teens now have fatty liver disease. That's like 1 out of every 5. That disease, when I was a kid, only affected late-stage alcoholics who were elderly. Cancer rates are skyrocketing in the young and the old. Young adult cancers are up 79%. 1 in 4 American women is on antidepressant medication. 40% of teens have a mental health diagnosis. And 15% of high schoolers are on Adderall, and 500,000 children on SSRIs. So what's causing this suffering? I'll name 2 culprits. First, and the worst, is ultra-processed food. About 70% of American children's diet is ultra-processed. That means industrial manufactured in a factory. These foods consist primarily of processed sugar, ultra-processed grains, and seed oils. Laboratory scientists who many of whom formerly worked for the cigarette industry, which purchased all the big food companies in the 1970s and 80s, deployed thousands of scientists to figure out chemicals, new chemicals, to make the food more addictive. And these ingredients didn't exist 100 years ago. Humans aren't biologically adapted to eat them. Hundreds of these chemicals are now banned in Europe, but ubiquitous in American processed foods. The second culprit is toxic chemicals in our food, our medicine, and our environment. Pesticides, food additives, pharmaceutical drugs, and toxic waste permeate every cell of our bodies. The assault on our children's cells and hormones is unrelenting. To name just one problem, many of these chemicals increase estrogen. Because young children are ingesting so many of these hormone disruptors, America's puberty rate is now occurring at age 10 to 13, which is 6 years earlier than girls were reaching puberty in 1900. Our country has the earliest puberty rates of any continent on the earth. And no, this isn't because of better nutrition. This is not normal. Breast cancer is also estrogen driven, and it now strikes 1 in 8 women. We are mass poisoning all of our children and our adults. Considering the grievous human cost of this tragic epidemic of chronic disease, it seems almost crass to mention the damage it does to our economy. But I'll say, it is crippling the nation's finances. When my uncle was president, our country spent $0 on chronic disease. Today, government health care spending is almost all for chronic disease. And it's double the military budget. And it is the fastest growing budget item in the federal budget. And chronic disease costs more to the economy as a whole, costs at least $4 trillion, 5 times our military budget. And that's a 20% drag on everything we do and everything we aspire to. Poor and minority communities suffer disproportionately. People who worry about DEI or about bigotry of any kind, this dwarfs anything. We are poisoning the poor. We are systematically poisoning minorities across this country. Industry lobbyists have made sure that most of the food stamp lunch program, about 70% of food stamps and about 70 or 77% of school lunches are processed foods. There's no vegetables. There's nothing that you would want to eat. We are just poisoning the poor citizens, and that's why they have the highest chronic disease burden of anybody, any demographic in our country, and the highest in the world. The same food industry lobbied to make sure that nearly all agricultural subsidies go to commodity crops that are the feedstock of processed food industry. These policies are destroying small farms, and they're destroying our soils. We give about, I think, 8 times as much in subsidies to tobacco than we do to fruits and vegetables. It makes no sense if we want a healthy country. The good news is that we can change all this. We can change it very, very quickly. America can get healthy again. To do that, we need to do 3 things. First, we need to root out the corruption in our health agencies. Second, we need to change incentives in our healthcare system. And third, we need to inspire Americans to get healthy again. 80% of NIH grants go to people who have conflicts of interest. These are the people, virtually everybody who sits, Joe Biden just appointed a new panel to NIH to decide the food recommendations. And they're all people who are from the industry. They're all people who are from the processed food companies. They're deciding what Americans, hear is healthy. And the recommendations on the food pyramid and what goes to our school lunch programs, what go to the program, the Swiss program, the food stamp programs, they are all corrupted and conflicted individuals. These agencies, the FDA, USDA, and CDC, all of them are controlled by giant for-profit corporations. 75% of the FDA's funding doesn't come from taxpayer, it comes from pharma. And pharma executives and consultants and lobbyists cycle in and out of these agencies with President Trump's backing. I'm going to change that. We're going to staff these agencies with honest scientists and doctors who are free from industry funding. We're going to make sure the decisions of consumers, doctors, and patients are informed by unbiased science. A sick child is the best thing for the pharmaceutical industry. When American children or adults get sick with a chronic condition, they're put on medication for their entire life. Imagine what will happen when Medicare starts paying for Ozempic, which costs $1,500 a month, and it's being recommended for children as young as 6, all for a condition, obesity, that is completely preventable and barely even existed 100 years ago. And 74% of Americans are obese. The cost, if all of them took their Ozempic prescription, is $3 trillion a year. This is a drug that is made by Novo Nordisk, the biggest company in Europe. It's a Danish company, and the Danish government does not recommend it. It recommends change in diet to treat obesity and exercise. And in our country, the recommendation now is for Ozempic to children at age 6. Novo Nordisk, the biggest company in Europe, and virtually its entire value is based upon its projections of what it's going to sell, of the Ozempic it's going to sell to America. And we have the food lobbyists have a bill in front of Congress today that is backed by the White House, backed by Vice President Harris and President Biden to allow this to happen. This $3 trillion cost that is going to bankrupt our country. For a fraction of that amount, we could buy organic food for every American family, 3 meals a day, and eliminate diabetes altogether. We're going to bring healthy food back to school lunches. We're going to stop subsidizing the worst foods with our agricultural subsidies. We're going to get toxic chemicals out of our food. We're going to reform the entire food system. And for that, we need new leadership in Washington. Because unfortunately, both the Democrats and the Republican parties are in cahoots with the big food producers, Big Pharma and Big Ag, which are among the DNC's major donors. Vice President Harris has expressed no interest in addressing this issue. 4 more years of Democratic rule will complete the consolidation of corporate and neocon power, and our children will be the ones who suffer most. I got involved with chronic disease 20 years ago, not because I chose to or wanted to. It was essentially thrust upon me. It was an issue that should have been central to the environmental movement. I was a central leader at that time, but it was widely ignored by all the institutions, including the NGOs, who should have been protecting our kids against toxins. It was an orphaned issue, and I had a weakness for orphans. I watched generations of children get sicker and sicker. I had 11 siblings, and I had 7 kids myself. I was conscious of what was happening in their classrooms and to their friends, and I watched these sick kids, these damaged kids. In that generation, almost all of them are damaged. And nobody in power seemed to care or to even notice. For 19 years, I prayed every morning that God would put me in a position to end this calamity. The chronic disease crisis was one of the primary reasons for my running for president, along with ending censorship in the Ukraine war. It's the reason I've made the heart-wrenching decision to suspend my campaign and to support President Trump. This decision is agonizing for me because of the difficulties it causes my wife and my children and my friends. But I have the certainty that this is what I've meant to do. And that certainty gives me internal peace, even in storms. If I'm given the chance to fix the chronic disease crisis and reform our food production, I promise that within 2 years, we will watch chronic disease burden lift dramatically. We will make Americans healthy again. Within 4 years, America will be a healthy country. We will be stronger, more resilient, more optimistic, and happier. I won't fail in doing this. Ultimately, the future, however it happens, is in God's hands.
I missed the whole end of this.
No, this isn't because of better nutrition. This is not normal. Breast cancer is also estrogen driven, and it now strikes 1 in 8 women. We are mass poisoning all of our children and our adults. Considering the grievous human cost of this tragic epidemic of chronic disease, it seems almost crass to mention the damage it does to our economy. But I'll say, it is crippling the nation's finances. When my uncle was president, our country spent $0 on chronic disease. Today, government health care spending is almost all for chronic disease. And it's double the military budget. And it is the fastest growing budget item in the federal budget. And chronic disease costs more to the economy as a whole, costs at least $4 trillion, 5 times our military budget. And that's a 20% drag on everything we do and everything we aspire to. Poor and minority communities suffer disproportionately. People who worry about DEI or about bigotry of any kind, this dwarfs anything. We are poisoning the poor. We are systematically poisoning minorities across this country. Industry lobbyists have made sure that most of the food stamp lunch program, about 70% of food stamps and about 70 or 77% of school lunches are processed foods. There's no vegetables. There's nothing that you would want to eat. We are just poisoning the poor citizens, and that's why they have the highest chronic disease burden of anybody, any demographic in our country, and the highest in the world. The same food industry lobbied to make sure that nearly all agricultural subsidies go to commodity crops that are the feedstock of processed food industry. These policies are destroying small farms, and they're destroying our soils. We give about, I think, 8 times as much in subsidies to tobacco than we do to fruits and vegetables. It makes no sense. We want a healthy country. The good news is that we can change all this. We can change it very, very quickly. America can get healthy again. To do that, we need to do 3 things. First, we need to root out the corruption in our health agencies. Second, we need to change incentives in our healthcare system. And third, we need to inspire Americans to get healthy again. 80% of NIH grants go to people who have conflicts of interest. These are the people, virtually everybody who sits, Joe Biden just appointed a new panel to NIH to decide the food recommendations. And they're all people who are from the industry. They're all people who are from the processed food companies. They're deciding what Americans, here is healthy. And the recommendations on the food pyramid. And what goes to our school lunch programs, what go to the program, the Swiss program, the food stamp programs. They are all corrupted and conflicted individuals. These agencies, the FDA, USDA, and CDC, all of them are controlled by giant for-profit corporations. 75% of the FDA's funding doesn't come from taxpayer, it comes from pharma. And pharma executives and consultants and lobbyists cycle in and out of these agencies. With President Trump's backing, I'm going to change that. We're going to staff these agencies with honest scientists and doctors who are free from industry funding. We're going to make sure the decisions of consumers, doctors, and patients are informed by unbiased science. A sick child is the best thing for the pharmaceutical industry. When American children or adults get sick with a chronic condition, they're put on medication for their entire life. Imagine what will happen when Medicare starts paying for Ozempic, which costs $1,500 a month, and it's being recommended for children as young as 6. All for a condition, obesity, that is completely preventable and barely even existed 100 years ago. And 74% of Americans are obese. The cost, if all of them took their Ozempic prescription, is $3 trillion a year. This is a drug that is made by Novo Nordisk, the biggest company in Europe. It's a Danish company, and the Danish government does not recommend it. It recommends change in diet to treat obesity and exercise. And in our country, the recommendation now is for Ozempic to children at age 6.
Transition here.
Novo Nordisk, the biggest company in Europe, and virtually its entire value is based upon its projections of what it's going to sell, of the Ozempic it's going to sell to America. And we have the food lobbyists have a bill in front of Congress today that is backed by the White House, backed by Vice President Harris and President Biden to allow this to happen. This $3 trillion cost that is going to bankrupt our country.
We don't need the background color
For a
change.
fraction
It's
of that
kinda
amount,
stupid,
we could buy organic food for every American family, 3 meals a day, and eliminate diabetes altogether.
What we could do,
We're going to bring healthy food back to school lunches. We're going to stop subsidizing the worst foods with our agricultural subsidies. We're going to get toxic chemicals out of our food. We're going to reform the entire food system. And for that, we need new leadership in Washington. Because unfortunately, both the Democrats and the Republican parties are in cahoots with the big food producers, Big Pharma and Big Ag, which are among the DNC's major donors. Vice President Harris has expressed no interest in addressing this issue. 4 more years of Democratic rule will complete the consolidation of corporate and neocon power, and our children will be the ones who suffer most. I got involved with chronic disease 20 years ago, not because I chose to or wanted to. It was essentially thrust upon me. It was an issue that should have been central to the environmental movement. I was a central leader at that time. But it was widely ignored by all the institutions, including the NGOs, who should have been protecting our kids against toxins. It was an orphaned issue, and I had a weakness for orphans. I watched generations of children get sicker and sicker. I had 11 siblings, and I had 7 kids myself. I was conscious of what was happening in their classrooms and to their friends, and I watched these sick kids, these damaged kids. In that generation, almost all of them are damaged. And nobody in power seemed to care or to even notice. For 19 years, I prayed every morning that God would put me in a position to end this calamity. The chronic disease crisis was one of the primary reasons for my running for president, along with ending censorship in the Ukraine war. It's the reason I've made the heart-wrenching decision to suspend my campaign and to support President Trump. This decision is agonizing for me because of the difficulties it causes my wife and my children and my friends. But I have the certainty that this is what I've meant to do. And that certainty gives me internal peace, even in storms.
Okay.
If I'm given the chance to fix the chronic disease crisis and reform our food production, I promise that within 2 years, we will watch chronic disease burden lift dramatically. We will make Americans healthy again. Within 4 years, America will be a healthy country. We will be stronger, more resilient, more optimistic, and happier. I won't fail in doing this. Ultimately, the future, however it happens, is in God's hands and in the hands of the American voters and those of President Trump. If President Trump is elected and honors his word, the vast burden of chronic disease that now demoralizes and bankrupts the country will disappear. This is a spiritual journey for me. I reached my decision through deep prayer, through hard-nosed logic, and I asked myself, what choices must I make to maximize my chances to save America's children and restore national health? I felt that if I refused this opportunity, I would not be able to look myself in the mirror, knowing that I could have saved lives of countless children and reversed this country's chronic disease epidemic. I'm 70 years old. I may have a decade to be effective. I can't imagine that President Harris, would allow me or anyone to solve these dire problems. After 8 years of President Harris, any opportunity for me to fix the problem will be out of my reach forever. President Trump has told me that he wants this to be his legacy. I'm choosing to believe that this time he will follow through. His son, his biggest donors, his closest friends, and all support this objective. My joining the Trump campaign will be a difficult sacrifice for my wife and children, but worthwhile if there's even a small chance of saving these kids. Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country,
we don't need the class here now, so we can just
and our children, is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other.
This is where we need to
That's why I launched my campaign to unify America. My dad and uncle made such an enduring mark on the character of our nation.
All of the images.
Not so much because of any particular policies that they promoted, but because they were able to inspire profound love for our country and to fortify our sense of ourselves as a national community held together by ideals.
So
they were able to put their love into the intentions and hearts of ordinary Americans, and to unify a national populist movement of Americans, blacks and whites, Hispanics, urban and rural Americans. They inspired affection and love and high hopes and a culture of kindness that continue to radiate among Americans from their memory. That's the spirit on which I ran my campaign, and that I intend to bring into the campaign of President Trump. Instead of vitriol and polarization, I will appeal to the values that unite us, the goals that we could achieve if only we weren't at each other's throats. The most unifying theme for all Americans is that we all love our children. If we all unite around that issue now, we can finally give them the protection, the health, and the future that they deserve.
I want to do.
Thank you all very much.
I have some tour dates to let you know about.
Jeez, Tucker Carlson and Theo Vaughn. Let's look at Theo Vaughn and Trump.
I wish we could watch the college football games we actually care about. You can't.
I have some tour dates to tell you about. This man, a television personality. We sat down at his club in Bedminster, New Jersey, and we want to thank the crew there for helping us make the production happen. He's one of the most famous people on earth, and I'm grateful for this chance to learn more about the man behind the headlines.
I'm going to cut Theo down a little bit. I'm going to be talking over Theo. So I'm going to have him about halfway because the compression doesn't work super well. Advanced audio properties. Let's see if we say.
Really great. My son's a big fan of yours.
Let's say.
He just graduated high school, right?
That's right.
Threshold.
He knows you very well. He said, "Dad, he's big.
Wow.
You're a big one."
Check.
What,
Well, that's where it is nowadays, right?
Check.
That's interesting. You know, I can't believe that we're able to get platforms, and I started in my kitchen, and then it's evolved out of there.
That's fantastic.
I mean, it's pretty unbelievable. What
Check.
You go ahead.
Yeah, we're good. Are we rolling?
Yeah, sure.
Check.
Yeah,
Check.
Yeah, does Baron play sports or anything?
He does. He plays golf and different sports, soccer. Loves soccer. Very good at soccer. He's a good athlete, Baron.
Yeah. Is he gonna go? Has he already picked a college or not?
All
He
right,
has,
so
he's getting set to go in
for-
for good college, a very good one.
let's do object
And he's always a very
keys.
good student. He's smart.
Product
Smart
meta
guy.
for
Which
each.
one of, yeah, like which one of your kids? Like,
Key.
what's something you admire about each one of your sons?
Well, Don is a hunter. He's a great, great hunter and knows everything about that world and guns and all. He was the first one that said, "Dad, boy, you got lucky," because I didn't realize that 130 yards is actually very close in that parlance. And he said, "You got lucky."
Let's say
Immediately when he saw that, he said, "It's incredible." 'Cause
Does
it's
that work?
considered a pretty close distance.
From how far the shooter was?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the guy wasn't a bad shooter, supposedly. You know, very disturbed guy, but he wasn't a bad shooter. And Eric, likewise, he loves the business. He loves real estate. Also, very much of a hunter and understands a lot of things about that. They were sort of, as young guys, they were with their grandfather, and he would take them hunting in Czechoslovakia. And somehow they developed very well. And
Czechoslovakia.
yeah,
Damn.
can you imagine?
It's a lot of
time.
letters, even.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
That's a name you don't hear too much anymore. But it was.
I'd need a scope just to get through the spelling of that word.
That's
I
right.
think,
A lot
you
of
know?
people. A lot of people.
Yeah.
But so he'd go. They'd spend time in Europe, and they'd do that. That's where he learned. A lot
cool.
about
So
both
now
of
I've
them,
got
really.
this thing.
With your dad, they would go?
No, grandfather actually.
We've got
They had a grandfather who was a wonderful outdoorsman and
the
athlete.
ability
And
to
here they
change
said they'd take
images
them out
now.
in the woods, and they'd go hunting and lots of things, and they loved it. They got to love it. And that's Don, and that's Eric.
Yeah. They're
And-
funny.
Oh yeah,
They have a good sense of humor, too. Like, whenever I see them at UFC, it's like,
yeah, right.
yeah, I just like, the first time I was nervous, I think. And then after that, when I've seen them, it's like, it's fun to kind of cut up with them a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah, well, they're good. They're good guys, and they really.
So let's say the
they
width
belong to the rest
is
of the family. We all
40.
They have a good family, but I love
View
it.
width.
You talk about a great guy. How about Dana White?
Yeah.
Good job he does, right?
Yeah, I want to thank Dana too for helping get us set up together. Yeah,
that's
he
right.
makes it happen. I like Dana. He doesn't waste words. He doesn't waste time. He likes to, I think, be efficient, and he has seems like a strong sense of integrity for himself.
Yeah, nobody like him actually. You know, there's an expression that everybody
An
is
image preview.
replaceable. Not Dana.
Yeah.
Nobody could do what he does, and he's
Product
made that sport into a big
detail.
monster sport.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, and we go there and we enjoy it. Go with him. Sometimes we do walk-ons with Dana, and place sort of likes it.
Oh
But-
yeah, I've been there.
yeah. But
There's
Dana,
a video
yeah,
of us. I was in behind you in one video. I'm sure the dogs here will pull it up. But yeah, those are some of my favorite. Those are some of my favorite things ever. UFC became my favorite sport during the pandemic because
Right.
Dana was brave enough to stay open. You know,
he was it. He
yeah.
was the whole ball game. He was the only sport, and he'd open up in arenas with nothing other than very good fighters, and they would be fighting. He had some of the best fights during the pandemic.
Yeah.
But he
Oh,
was
it was exceptional. There it is. See, look.
Oh,
There
yeah,
you
yeah.
are, and I'm right behind you there.
Oh,
clapping
wow,
with that hat on,
yeah.
the white guy in the
that's
hat.
great. That's right. The white guy in the hat is right. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of us there, but I was one of them for sure.
That's right.
Yeah, see, that's me right
Good
there.
sport, isn't it, huh?
Yeah, I'm a Dustin Poirier fan, so.
Oh, he's great. He was,
know.
boy, I tell you, he's a warrior. The last fight he
Trump
had.
and Theo are
Believe
hilarious.
it or not, he is a warrior.
I don't care if anyone likes Trump or not. Like, I'm not a pro-Trumper, but like,
He was that fight. He really,
he's a pretty funny dude.
man, he was fighting his stuff.
So how do we
Didn't expect that same fight, but he often
proceed icons?
he makes people suffer. There's no
Let's
question.
look at.
He's a pro. He's a professional.
He's hard. He's from Louisiana, that's
It
where I'm
was-
from.
as that fight went along, he just got stronger and stronger, and he was getting pounded, and he was going to be choked out about 4 different times, and he just didn't let that happen. No, you say hello to him. He's good.
Yeah,
He's a really great fighter.
And he hosts Thanksgiving dinner every year.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to go sometime. Huh?
Oh yeah, I mean
He must be good food.
he does. Yeah, he does some good stuff over there.
Let's see if we can find some dots.
Yeah, I do. It was Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali in Madison Square Garden.
Ooh, you know something I'd almost like to do is have like mini pictures next to it, but I don't have a whole lot of pictures to show. I mean,
How old were you, remember?
we could get more big stick dot store.
But they were two undefeated fighters. They were both undefeated.
Like if we go here, yeah, we've only got 2 pictures of this one.
They were two great fighters. I think they had like many heart attacks that day, literally heart attacks in Madison Square Garden. I think it was Madison Square Garden. And the fight was so unbelievable. 2 undefeated heavyweight champions of the world. There was no UFC and there was no competition. That was it. Yeah. And so you had the 2 guys. And you remember that Muhammad was allowed to fight because there's lots of different things. He was a terrific guy. Both terrific guys, very different. And they made it as 2 undefeated heavyweight champions fighting.
And who took you to the fight, remember?
I went with my father and my brother Robert. And it was just, I don't know, I must have been very young. It was a long time ago. You would never forget it. It was one of those moments.
So we can go now to our assets.
Because this was such a crazy event. It was so, people were just, I know a friend of mine, my father, he went, he had a heart attack. Literally, they took him out. They were taking people out.
It's an early
It was, and I don't heard that anymore. There were other exciting but I don't think there's ever been, I don't know, I guess that is. But you would think Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali in the first fight, but it was a very exciting time.
Yeah, and just people being, I guess, sometimes our systems aren't ready to handle the amount.
Now if we go back here,
Like, I think, like, yeah, maybe people just couldn't even handle so much.
yeah, we've got to pick one. So on our product page, we need to,
Maybe Super Bowls or something.
Oh, people have heart attacks eating thick soup, you know? So it's like, I'm not surprised that something so awesome like that would make your heart be like, yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, but I never hear of it, and I'm sure it happens. Just that one. But we had an exciting event the other night with Elon Musk. We had a
so we need to say let image equal images, find image includes front. Can we do that? And then say image if.
I heard the audio was great, and actually they put out a clear tape on it because they had clear tape on it. They had so many millions and millions of people watching, like record numbers.
There we go.
And I'm trying to figure out where our
So find grabs the first instance, so we can just use the first one.
But I heard some people had a problem with the audio. I don't know how to do that thing. You know, that was done, and we had a great conversation. It was for 2 hours and 15 minutes. They just put out a clear tape of it, a perfect tape of it. But yeah, I sounded, I think I sounded, somebody said your voice was distorted or something. And, you know, I guess it happens. Look, it was such a big thing, such a big audio, but I would have loved to have seen the clear tape originally. They put it out right after the show, so now it's a clear tape or a perfect tape done there. Yeah. But when it goes through different phone systems and everything else, you think if we were together, that doesn't happen then. Because I think his voice was more clear.
So
who was like initiating the call. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure about how all that works. But yeah,
what we're gonna do, this is kind of a hacky way to do this, but what we're gonna do is say
the cost to really have your own voice in the world is $44 million, basically.
Each
You want to have your voice, like, you know what I'm saying? He has his own, like, he has his own.
each
Yeah.
products as blank and index, and then we're gonna say index.
Because, you know, I was on Twitter and I was on Instagram, I was on all of it, and I was on Facebook. And when you added it up, I was told by Zuckerberg and others it was like record-setting type of numbers. And then one day I didn't have anything because they canceled. I mean, they canceled. Yeah, it was just go out and put out an old public relations statement. You remember that? Although you're really young to say, in the old days you put out a statement. And I did, and it was just gobbled up. It was like really gobbled up.
And then we will say div, and we'll just say class flex, and then flex column.
Well, at least you have your voice in. You could say what you want to say.
My voice back, yeah. I had hundreds of millions of people.
Odd. It's because it's the same width, so we don't need it to be same width. We need it to be auto. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, it's but I love the job.
And then this would be div.
Terrible. Every time you do a thing, you'd be red flagged. Every statement you make, you'd be red flagged.
Yeah, it's almost like, it's like you have a babysitter and you don't want to have any fun or whatever.
Yeah, right.
That's kind of the vibe I got. When you, I see with at the fights, I see you sometimes you sit right by Dana, and sometimes I see I'll go with like a space.
How the hell do we put it in the center?
Good.
And, I'll see you coming with Kid Rock, and, you don't drink at the fight.
The Kid Rock is, he's terrific. He came to the convention, he knocked everybody out. He's a great guy. He's just a great guy. He's popular, very popular.
Oh, he's a real dirt serpent too. He's a legend.
He is a legend. Yeah. He's 2 cents.
Oh, 100%. People love him. You look at him. I went to a show not long ago.
ID, we're gonna just call this spanner.
People, I think somebody had a heart attack there too.
Div spanner.
Related, I think, type of vibes.
Padding, we want to do 0, 0. There we go. Okay, and then
Kid Rock is Bob, but he's a really good.
What we want to do is we want to add.
In a town. He hit me up one night and was like, "Hey man, I'm having a birthday party."
So we're gonna say if index equals selected image, then let's just test this out.
The family of the father I knew very well. He just passed away, and it was tough for him. I did, and he was fantastic. I got to know him through knowing Bob, and I tell you what, it's just a fantastic family. The whole family.
No, I love Bob. He and I joke around together a lot. We spent a lot of time together. Look at his brother right there.
That's right.
Dude hits.
And you know what? He plays golf, and he plays well. He hit a perfect drive with me. I said, "You play?"
Let's see. Div
Did you play?
on
Yes. I said, "Oh,
click.
you want to hit a shot?" And he said, "Okay." And he got up. Well, it was very hard for him to put it was really a tough situation because he has to get the ball on the ground and everything else. Nobody did it for him. And he did it. I mean, he goes to the ground and he did it. Gets up. He swung. And I'm a good golfer. He hit a perfect shot out to the right with a little hook. Nobody knows what that means in your audience probably, but that's like a perfect shot. And I said, that is...
I don't want these to be buttons.
Because you'll never be able to hit a shot that good.
It is working though, which is cool. Can we just say we can just make the span on click?
You know, one thing that's really nice about him is I'll go do something with him, and then like a few days later, he'll send a nice note, or he'll send like a photo, like a framed photo, so just say, "Hey man, I had a nice time."
Yeah.
I noticed at the end you don't drink, and you don't drink or smoke.
Selector.
Never have.
No, I never have. I had a great brother who taught me a lesson.
Hi, Zakib. Angry person.
He was handsome, very handsome man.
Is he older? He was older.
Why are you so mad for, bro?
He had a problem with alcohol. Smoked a lot, but I tell people, no drugs, no drinking, no cigarettes.
Peace be upon you too, brother.
No drugs, no drinking, no cigarettes.
Shalom.
It was tough.
He'd always tell me, he'd say, so he was, really old enough that you would look up to
I can't listen to Trump talk that long.
I have some tour dates to let you know about Athens, Georgia on November 7th. And
No, I'm not Muslim. I'm not sure why that matters, but I am not. Hmm. So instead of an index now, we can use, I mean, we could use a dot, but we could probably use something better, I think. But I'm not against this. Import dot from Lucid Svelte icons dot. And then here we can change the index to a dot. Why are you so aggressive, Zakib? Right. Where's the damn thing for the size? The size. Oh man, there's so much stuff here. It's so easy to get lost. I don't want to change padding. We can use height. That's what I was looking for. Height to width 2. Oh, that's tiny itty bitty. So if it's selected, we want it to be bigger. Only needs to be one bigger though. These don't look very good though. I mean, kind of, but not really. How the hell do we do tailwind align vertical? Yes, I do believe in God. I don't know why that matters here though. Middle. Yeah, button is not more better. Really, this would be the ideal way to do this. That doesn't even work. None of these seem to be working. Let's say ID unselected, and then if we can say dot unselected, and then we can say padding top. Not working, is it? Not working, is it? Let's say A. Look at that. Now we got some padding. What if we do the align bottom here? Class. I can't tell if it's doing anything or not. I don't think it is. We need to get this. Maybe we get rid of this and this. And then here we say align center. What am I missing? I mean, this is like very, very close. Excuse me. This mic stand's pretty cool, but it's not. I should have one more degree of freedom. I wish I could pivot the arm that it sits on. I mean, technically I can do this, but I'm not gonna complain. Let's see, ID unselected. Let's see if we can just say A unselected. Yeah, whatever. Adding top. Okay, wow, that's kind of crazy. There we go. And then one other thing that we can do at the end and beginning is say, we can say if selected image equals 0, right? So we'll start at 0. And then we'll say image count products length. And we'll only do this if image count is greater than 0. Then we'll do all of this. And then the last thing we want to do is, so we got a back button. We want a back button and then a, so we got back, chevron left, so we want a chevron right too. I don't know why I didn't just click here. And say forward. And we'll add a, forward button. And what we'll do is we'll say A, and then, yeah, that's cool. I like that. That's better than I thought of. Sometimes the GPT is nice. So this should cycle all the way around now. So like, can we change the colors of these? Is that? This is some dope music, not gonna lie. So we want to add selected too. We want it to be on the same line. But we want to say a unselected hover. Can we change the color of this thing to like, let's just try it. Cool, we can actually change the color. So we're gonna just go with this like really shit. What did we do? Motherfucker working. You know, motherfucker's working. Nah, just bullshitting, bro. Can we change this to say div spanner and get rid of these? That didn't work for all of them, so no, that will not work, will it? We have to have them separate. ID selector. Just add this to both then. And we'll do the same thing. Can we do selected, selector, unselected? No. That's not, oh, it's a A. Where was the comeback, bro? There wasn't a comeback. You're like so delayed in your response. Like, I answered your question. I said I do. And then I also asked, like, why you're asking. Cool, so we've got like a spanner and it works for all of our products based on how many pictures we got. All we gotta do is drop pictures in and all of this formats itself. Very cool. Something else I would like to do. Let's say, overflow hidden. I almost actually think I want to clip it, but, image hover scale 2, transition, transform, and then I'd almost like it to follow the cursor, but I don't want to implement cursor movement. I think I'm okay with that, actually. That's interesting. We can put the spanner in the front though. C index 1. Bro, I'm literally responding to you. Like, can you not hear me? Or are you just trolling right now? Because if you are, it's a pretty weak troll. I don't want the whole image preview to zoom though. That's one thing I don't like. I want it to stay within that white box. Alright, so the image is here. Let's just add a div for ID image container. Why are you raging, bro? You need to like chill out. Like if Islam does not help you relax, then maybe find a new religion, bro, cuz I don't know why you got to be so aggressive for it. Like, I've actually really looked into Islam. I personally think it's naive to pick a single brand of religion and then claim that it's the absolute truth. Because if your religion is true, then if I wrote that truth down in a science book, it would still be true. If there's one God, then there's one God in over every religion. Like, logic would prevail in those cases. I think any religion that helps somebody become a better person is valid in that regard. And any justification that you have to hate another person is invalid and goes against your own foundational beliefs if you believe in a loving God at all. Yeah, I know. I've heard plenty of Islamists claim that their Islam is the one truth, and I've heard Christians say the same thing, and atheists say the same thing. Yep. Everyone wants to think that their belief is the best. If your religion is so good, then you should be able to unite people who don't believe without having to force them or threaten them. Same goes for any religion. I don't believe in telling people what to believe. That's one of the first things I believe, so it would go against my own beliefs to sit here and tell you what to believe. I've already told you what I believe. I believe that anything that helps people cope and to have more compassion and more empathy for one another is good. I don't care what religion it comes from. I also believe that any grounds that you have to discriminate on others and look down on them for not believing the way you do, I think that's fundamentally flawed. That goes against what your religion teaches anyway. That's why it's written in Islam to not manage other people's beliefs. If people don't believe the same as you, it says you're not their manager, so let them believe what they want. There's also writings in almost every religion that tells you not to tell other people what your beliefs are unless they ask. I already explained to you what I believe, my dude. I didn't get on here to preach my religious views either. Like, yeah, bro. Didn't get up here to debate. I believe that beliefs are supposed to be for the individual. So if I believe something that's different than you believe, that's okay. We can have different beliefs. We can still be decent human beings without having to think the same exact thing. We should be able to respect each other's differences. If you can't do that, then you should probably reevaluate your beliefs. I believe you can judge a man by the fruits of his labors. So if your belief system spreads hate, then that's not something that I want to stand behind, my dude. But if your belief system can help alleviate other people's suffering, not create more of it, then I can respect that. Ultimately, that comes down to the person, though. I don't operate on truth. Truth is something that would belong to God, not to me. All I can do is have a theory about what I think is right or wrong, or hope to be accurate. I just want to be consistent. I want my actions to reflect my intentions. When you start going into truth, you create problems. It doesn't allow for you and I to have different truths. And that's not a very good way to operate. There's a lot of contradictions in religion. There's contradictions in math. There's contradictions in theology, in philosophy, epistemology, empiricism. There's a lot of contradictions when we rely on logic. So there's a commonality between Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, Sikhism, Taoism, Buddhism, Jainism. And it's that you shouldn't rely on your mind. You can't logic your way to God. All of these religions teach you to look inward into the heart. That it's what's in your heart that counts. What's important is how we treat one another. The heart is foolish and wrathful and vengeful and unkind and lustful. The heart is something we can't logically trust, but it's the vehicle which we can experience love, life, so many things beyond what's in our minds. So when we start comparing ideas, we're gonna fall short every time. Yeah, I've heard this this expression before. 2 + 2 = 4. 2 + 2 has one true answer. There isn't many rights. The right is one. So if I say 2i + 2i = 4i, well, that might be true, but doesn't mean that I = 4. There's mathematical contradictions. So your expression does not. Using math as a metric for religion is a false equivalency. I can show you one. 1 divided by 1 = 1. But what is 0 divided by 0 equal? See, math breaks down at certain points too. There's contradictions everywhere. No, it does not equal 0. 7 divided by 7 equals 1. A divided by A equals 1. So then 0 divided by 0 should equal 1. But we don't want to regard that as a possibility because it breaks the rules of math. So we disregard it because it doesn't support our truth. And 0 would go into any number infinitely. So then you could say 1 equals infinity. Yes, I do understand the mathematical rules. Look. Let me show you on the screen, buddy. Let's do this right here. 1 divided by 1 equals 1. Let's just say A. A divided by A. Let's let A equal 7. Oh, look at that. Still equals 1. If we say A divided by A equals A divided by A, so this gives us our math, right? If we change this to 100, doesn't matter what number we change it to. If we change it to 0, all of a sudden we get not a number. 0 divided by 0 equals not a number. So you're going to say that everybody who builds computers doesn't understand mathematical rules? That would make you an idiot. Now, I understand the logic that you're trying to pose. What you're saying is valid logic, that 0 divided by 0 should be 0, but math would disagree with you because of the premise that A divided by A should equal 1. But we can't do that, because how would you say that 1 can come from 0? That breaks the rules of math. So a better answer would be infinite, because 0 could go into 0 infinite times. But then we have to say that either 1 or 0 is infinite, so then we just say undefined. We try to turn this into a string. It should give us undefined. It's still giving us not a number. That's fine. Yeah, bro, look, I've got a calculator right here, bro. Do you want me to do this again? Like, you know, if it goes to 0, the reason it will go to 0 is because it cannot calculate a number. Oh, look at that. Math error. The calculator itself. This is a scientific calculator. Jeez, bro. You don't even know what you're talking about, and you want to sit here and insult me. I'm not going to sit here and argue with you, bro. This is exactly what I'm talking about. People don't use logic. They don't use reasoning, and they don't have understanding of the things that they're talking about. Then they want to go tell other people what to believe when they don't even use logic. I literally just prove a mathematical inconsistency to you. And also that your rules of right and wrong or logic don't even apply. 2 plus 2 equals 4 only applies to the context of 2 and 2. It's like saying, I know I'm sitting in a chair because I'm sitting in a chair. Well, the same logic applies if you say, my arm's touching a chair, so the chair has an arm. Yes, I understand what you're saying more than you do. That's the problem here, dude. Like, The problem is logic will only get you so far. There are lists of logical inconsistencies. Logical inconsistencies are statements that contradict each other, like saying, this sentence is false. Well, if what I'm saying is true, then I just said it was false, which means if it's false, then it's not true, so then it's not true, so me saying that it's false is not true, so therefore it would be true. Like, do you understand how contradictory logic works? Mathematical contradictions. There are a whole list of these. Occur when a statement such as P is true and its negation is also true. There are consistencies, proof of contradictions in mathematics. There's a whole study around this, dude. Like, you can't use math as a justification for religion. It doesn't work. Especially when you don't understand mathematics. That's what we call a false equivalency. A false equivalence is an informal fallacy in which an equivalence is drawn between two subjects based on flawed or false reasoning. You're trying to say that you can know absolute truth because 2 + 2 = 4. Those two things are unrelated. It's like saying steak is good because orange juice is sweet. Like, it's completely unrelated. Especially when math has contradictions and is inconsistent. We experience mathematical anomalies all the time. Mathematical anomalies. List of unsolved problems in math. There's a whole list of these problems that we just can't solve, or we haven't been able to solve with our current way of thinking. Tons of problems here. Like, literally pages of research, years and years of research, that stuff that just, we don't understand it. So to claim that you would know the truth is just such a naive thing to say in general. This is why I don't operate on a foundation of truth. Like, truth itself includes bias. You have to define what you think truth is, which means it's your opinion. Like, you cannot subjectively define the objective, ever. You'll never be able to do it. And I also would encourage you, like, if you, I imagine you probably left, but I would encourage you, like, if you want to try to appeal to people, then try not insulting them. Anytime you have to use insults to make a point, you already lost your point. It just shows a lack of foundation, a lack of understanding, a lack of respect. Imagine you left, though, because most people do leave whenever their worldview gets crushed. And what's sad is that wasn't even my intention. Like, I really didn't want to tell you what to think. But when you start telling me I don't understand math when I'm literally using mathematical logic on a daily basis, that says more about you than it does me, my dude. Get that dumbass shit out of my chat, bro. What am I missing here? There's the margin. Well, that's not good. Adding. Well, that's kind of good, but border radius. Why is the border radius not working? Oh, I've got them backwards. Why is this one not working? Why is the image preview one changing? This doesn't make sense. The image container is the whole container. This is the one. I actually don't know why we've got two of these now. God damn, I fucking hate that shit. Go away, bro. Getting mad. Homie got me ill. Dude coming in here wanting to insult me over his religious views, bro. What the hell? People are dumb as shit. I guess I did need that extra div. I don't know why though. Oh yeah, because this one gives us a... do we even need that one? Do we need the image container? That doesn't look right. I feel like it's not. I'm not repeating myself, bro. You already came in here trying to insult me and shit, so like you can go on somewhere. I feel like I don't need this one either. I don't know why I've got so many divs. Oh, I see. Okay, so we need the column for these. So product container, we really don't need the image container. Right, okay, so then this can do, oh, okay, I see. So the product container would be a flex row. Yeah, I actually do need that image container. These are named poorly though. This is the whole container. Yeah, bro, I'm not here to talk to you about religion, bro. If you want to talk about religion, you can join the Discord and I will talk to you one-on-one outside of this live stream, but I'm not on here to talk about your beliefs, bro, and I'm not here to argue with you. I'm trying to build something. If you want to debate, we can talk later. Like, this isn't your platform to be up here talking about your religious beliefs or arguing with me about logic. Like, if you need references for how to learn logic, I will give you plenty of resources to learn logic. Ultimately, that's up to you. image preview itself should be the one. I don't understand why. So if I change the border, why is it changing the outlying one? So this one right here, image container, should be the one handling the border, but why do we have two of these? So yeah, I don't think we need this one. We should be able to do it like this. And then we can put the image preview. Okay, I see. There we go. And then flex direction equals a column. There we go. Now, oh, okay, so the padding needs to be on the image container as well. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. The only thing is I want this thing to move. Yeah, I'm talking to you. I also don't think you're a fan. You seem to be coming up here wanting somewhere to argue about Muslim beliefs and your armchair logic, bro. Like, well, that's cool and all. Translate image. I don't even understand what you're saying, bro. I could find places in Islam where it tells you not to go tell other people what to believe. I could also kick you off of my live feed for sitting here and being disrespectful too if I wanted to. I also told you that I'm not going to sit here and argue with you about your faith or your lack of logic. So if you want to keep on, then you can go to the Discord and we can talk directly one-on-one there. I'd be happy to talk to you, but not on my live feed. If you don't want to respect that, then I'm just going to ignore you. I don't care. Again, I did not start this live feed to talk to you about your faith or your logic. I'm up here trying to create a web store. If you don't want to respect that, then I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not going to say I'm sorry because I'm not. So if you don't want to respect that, you can kindly go fuck yourself. If you would like to be respectful, you can go to the Discord. We can talk one-on-one. That's your options, my dude. I'm giving you options. It's up to you. Yeah, I don't want to do static transforms, and I don't want to like program in a whole bunch of Yeah, that's not what I want. The other option is to get an element based on when the mouse hovers. We can add an event listener. Let's see, we can add an event listener. Think we can say we can say add event listener, and then mouse move. Let's see if that works. We done broked it. Image is null. Okay, well, what we'll do is we'll say it almost worked. Missing insertion point. Re-rendering product. Failed to load. This could be due to syntax errors. Yeah, I know. Like, it almost works, but it's that zoom in effect that's failing it. I've done this before. I don't want to build a whole hover effect though. Like, I want this to be easy. Let's just try something like this. Let's say image style transform equals translate. So the problem is this is not updating. I guarantee you the problem is it's not updating whenever when we first load, the image itself is not loaded. This script loads before the object loads. So we need to add a document listener. How to listen for ID changes, document HTML. Is that really all it takes? Let's try that sucker out. Can we do it like this? Yeah, I don't like that either. Can we say, can we say document? And then add, mutation observer. Can we do it like that? We also need to say observer, observe element document. I don't care how many people are watching, bro. Like, I've told you, if you want to talk to me about your beliefs, you can do that in the Discord server. I'm not going to do it here. So, I wish you the best. No hard feelings towards you. Got no problems with your beliefs, man. I've got a problem with people using inconsistent logic to try to tell other people what to believe. I also have a problem with people using insults to try to form a foundation for their argument.
Need inspiration? Shop Kroger for over 30,000 mouth-watering choices with savings beyond low prices, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week.
I don't know why people have to be like that. Like, bro, we can have different opinions, and that's fine.
Worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions
It's okay for us to have different beliefs.
Save big store-wide. Look for the locked-in low prices tags and enjoy extra savings throughout the store. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Not quite sure why. Do we have to say if image and then add all of this in here? Because then how does this thing fucking work? So I know in JavaScript you can say not. You know you're doing good when you break the whole language. Console log hit enter. So yeah, we didn't even hit the inner, so we didn't even hit the outer. Argument 1 is not an object. How do we do onload svelte? How about we do that? Const onload equals element, and then we can do it this way. This is much better actually. Image and then in the image we can say use onload. Console log image loaded. Does this work? Why am I not looking here? Let's restart. Oh, I'm missing now I feel stupid. We don't need the observer now, actually. We can get rid of the observer. We can just use the event listener. And then we can say that when we load the image, observer is not defined. Of course, I didn't mean to. Almost, it almost works now. We've almost got this thing. Oh wait, height minus. We're so close to having this thing working now. Do we want it to go the opposite direction? I don't think we do. I think we just want it to do what it does. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, we do have to do... Yeah, we have to do half of the width and half of the height. Wonder why it's doing that. Let's see. Why do we think it's doing that? Does anyone have any guesses? Also, I just realized there's a glyph in my image. I really want to do the opposite. I want to like inverse. And I don't want to do the client XY actually either. We need to take the top left. This is some tricky logic. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, so it keeps resetting back to 0. I wonder, do we still have the image stuff here? Okay. Boy, this is like a mind. It's like almost there, actually. Look at that. It was just moving too drastically is what it was. There we go. We want to say, we wanted to do it when we hover. It's a little bit drastic, right? Image. Jesus. Image style transition. Transform 0.3. We want to like really, we want to just slow it down. There we go. We want it to be fast enough. Whoa. Can we do the scale? Okay, we just want to translate the scale. Can we do the translate by itself? That's really what we want. And then we want to say image style scale equals 2. Image style scale equals 1. Translate. I don't know if this will work, but I would like it to work. Button is not defined. How is button not defined? Where did I mess up? I messed something up when I did this. Does it not like my strings? Should we? Oh, I see. Import button. Back is not defined. Fuck's sake, man. It's not Lucid React. Come on, bro. Look, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna copy all this. We're gonna go back. There we go. Now we've got everything back, and then we can just replace these parts. So we can do transform and then translate like this, and then we can do scale separately. I think that'll work. Translate. We don't need to do 3, maybe do 4. It's a little bit of a glyph. You know what? I'm okay with it not being perfect. I mean, it's literally just right here by the edge. I kind of want to add one other thing and say image, add event listener, mouse down, and then we're gonna actually just add this event listener inside of this one. Oh, we have to say element prevent default. And then do we even need this one actually? Yeah, we have to have the mouse up. That's tricky. It still adds the mouse move listener in there, which is crazy. Another thing we could do is add the on mouse down here. On mouse down, and then we will say move listener, and then we can say we can just change this to const move listener, and then Oh, interesting, interesting. We still have to have the image here for this to work. And then const release. And then we'll get the image, and then we do have to say okay, so we'll take the event, the mouse down event, and we'll say E prevent default, so it prevents the grab effect that we're seeing. And then on the so many steps here, this is crazy. This will work though, I think. So then when we say on mouse up, we say release listener. So that doesn't seem to be working. Huh. That's so weird. It's keeps going back. Okay. It doesn't want it to be added to the image, which is fine. We can add it to the div itself. And I don't think it wants us to do that either. How do we do that? Mouse up should have ARIA. ARIA label image listener. Does it want me to use on click and on key up? What we're gonna do, we're gonna just fucking, we're gonna avoid the, come on, man, I hate that thing. Why does it have to get in the fucking way like that? It's just annoying as shit. I don't think we need the mouse move listener. I think we can just directly There's another way we could do this. We can actually put these together. Like it almost worked before. We'll define const handle move equals then we'll just say handle move. Oh, I gotta have a const move handler. And then we gotta remove the move handler. Ah, interesting. Okay, cool. Super cool. It's a little buggy, but that's okay. The functionality is here and it works for all the different products, which is super cool. Can we scale it by 3 actually? Then we'll divide it by 5, so that way we can never like fully zoom past the edge of the product. Very cool. And then add description when hovering over HTML element. Oh, that's like way more than I want to do. I don't know if I want to do all that. I mean, it'd be nice. Hello, the Grand Blue. Le Grand Blue. The big blue. Oh man, I think I need to take a break. I'm pretty proud of this so far. We've got something that looks like a web store. We've got a back button. We've got pages that are kind of dynamic. This is pretty cool. And then we've got the ability to, like if we go to Big Stick Store, if I go here and like I get my picture of my book, right? If I copy the image, I go here to products in the assets folder. If I create a new, what am I doing? I create a new folder and call it fabrication. Display. Rename this front because the front is the front. Then if we go back in, we have it in our store now. And the products don't work. That's interesting. We got a bug there. But what we can do now is we go into our routes in our product and we add, actually no. We go to our library, we go to our components, to our storefront. Nope. Then we will add fabrication to our list. Fabrication. Now we can go to the page. We need to make a gonna have to add some clamping here. Some product. Let's say that our product height is auto, and our height is I don't know, 30. There we go. It's not ideal though, so like we go back here, let's see, our main, what we could do is make the width then we can make the height 90% of that. That's not very nice. That's kind of ugly. That's pretty horrid, I would have to say. It's actually looks, I made it look worse. 30,
like digital coupons worth over
35.
and up to $1 off.
And that's almost reasonable, except for the fact that
flavors make Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Save big on your favorites with the buy 5 or more, save $1 each sale. Simply buy 5 or more participating items and save $1 each with your card. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
come on now. Justify content center. What the fuck, man? What am I doing? Align item center. That's horrible. This is horrible. Justify content space around. That's horrible too. Oh. Justify center. Is that how you do it? There we go. Okay. We gotta find like a happy medium. So like this works for the images. I mean, this works for the this works for the shirts, but not the book. What if we rename this one display one? We'll just do it like that, and then we'll rename this one front. That's kind of ugly. This still breaks though. M3. That's not as bad. It just still looks ugly. Can we say auto height? Then they're not the same. That's ugly too. One thing that sucks about doing it this way too is like, god damn, I hate those prompts like that. See, because it scales like this, it never, it doesn't format properly. And I had it working before, but what's the problem? What's the problem? I should just do it like this. Image container. Div image container, display effects.
Pretty good at what they do, but they can't give an item a human touch. On Etsy, you can find something handmade, hand-picked, or designed by independent
Margin
to their small
1.
businesses. Discover hand-blown glassware, reclaimed furniture, personal
Line item center, justify content center.
so much more. So the next time you're shopping for yourself or someone special, choose extraordinary items from small businesses. Keep commerce human. Discover small businesses on Etsy.
Okay, so what we gotta do is we've gotta add so we need top margin, right margin, no bottom margin, and then another on the left. We're missing something else too, like... Fuck, man. Like, this sucks. It's because the width is scaling with the viewport size. We need to have, like, a fixed size, like, 300 pixels. There's a lot better way to do this. There we go. So now we've got something that looks reasonable. I don't know why it's not splitting into 4, but I'm okay with it. We can go into the product page now, and with the image we can say max height equals 50, and we can say where's the image container, image preview. Oh, that's weird. That's super weird. Oh, CSS is so weird, man. I think I'm okay with that. The only thing I would like to do now that we've got this done is go to the product page, and then for the image, say border radius, and do like 1. It actually needs to be on the image container. Very cool. So now when we zoom in, you gotta click to zoom in, but ooh, we can change the change cursor icon to magnifying glass. HTML. So on the product page, when we have the image preview container, so div image preview hover, there we go. Now you kind of know that you can zoom in. We can also go into the zoom. We can slow it down the scale a little. And we'll translate this to it's still instant. I don't know if I like that. Like, what did we change? It was going slow before. That's fine. I don't care that it's a little buggy. I've got to take a break, y'all. If you do guys want to buy any of this merch, you can go to bigstick.store. I'm on the process of buying the ISBN numbers for my book. The book will be coming out soon. You can buy some of this merch today. I've got some of it coming myself. I recently bought some of this myself, so I'm really looking forward to getting some of these. Some of these are going to go away soon. The Neotech shirts are going to be going away very soon. I don't know if these are going to make it to the new platform or not. I do like some of these. I really do like this shirt. Just want to redo the design, I guess, maybe. No, we'll see. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I gotta drop off here. I need to go to the bathroom and eat. Super excited about this though. Like, I like my store already more than their store. Some of this stuff I still got bugs, like it keeps reloading the whole page, but it doesn't do it when it's here, which is odd. Got some weird linking from the menu. Menu has different functionality apparently. Oh, I just realized this is overflow clipping in the storefront, and we don't want the product to hide the image container. There we go. Weird. Weird. I want it to go like. I'll just leave it. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. I did want to have opacity though, like half. Not half. That's like way too much. Let's get rid of the translate. Just a mild opacity. There we go. Signifies that you're hovering over it. I do still want to get this translate to work. It's gonna bother me if I don't. There we go. Weird that scale transition's not waiting. Is that the way to do it? I had the rest of these working. It doesn't want to do both. That's the interesting part. It doesn't want to do the scale and the translate, but we could do. So if we do transform, we can do scale. And then translate this way. And then we can say transform 500 milliseconds. And then it does nothing. Negative 25 pixels. There we go. That's a lot cleaner looking. Now if we can just transition the opacity separately, that kills the whole thing. It won't do both. But maybe we could do opacity here as well. And now that does nothing as well. And we can fix this font stuff later. The font itself should be like... how do you add glow on a font? Title... Glow? No. I forget how to do this. I'm not very good at CSS. Text shadow. So this one is the X direction, this is the Y direction, and then that's the blur. So 0, 0, and then there you go. We could say 3, 2. It's kind of ugly, kind of corny, but it still works. Something else we could do is like, what am I doing? 8-8. Let's see, our text is split, so we got padding on the top and the left. What happens if we just take the padding off the top? What if we do a half a 1? That's not as bad. We could cut this down to like... light glow on the text, just very light, not enough for you to notice, but enough for the text to not blend in, right? Yeah, I think this is alright. I think I'm okay with this. Like, this is sufficient enough. It doesn't have to be perfect, man. Like, nobody's gonna come in here and be criticizing the store so much that they're like, oh, it's a little glitchy when I move my mouse, and when I click over the hover, it doesn't work exactly how I want it to. I think the functionality of this thing's the important thing. I would like to think it would be anyway. Yeah, I can't wait to get some of these hoodies in. Anyway, I appreciate everybody tuning in. I'm gonna go spend some time with the kiddo. I've been on here for like over 3 hours. Appreciate the follows and the chatting and all of the interaction. Hopefully next time we can get some of this cart bugs worked out. I gotta get the menu thing worked out. We also gotta get a cart working. It's kind of bland, but it functions. Wouldn't mind improving some of this scaling in the future as well, but it'd be cool to even add a little transition of this thing moving down.
inspiration?
This menu thing's got to be fixed though. There's some real bugs with this. Like you can't click here
Like digital
next to the
coupons
cart
for
when it's
$60
selected,
each week, and up to $1 off per gallon.
which I can fix that
More
stuff,
savings
but
and more inspiring flavors make
like
Kroger
this doesn't
birthday
seem to
every
make a
time.
whole lot of
Kroger,
sense.
fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Save big on your favorites with the buy 5 or
Yeah,
more
now the
save
value's changed. But yeah, anyway, we'll deal with these problems next time. I'm just super glad that the product page actually works dynamically. That these, this functionality is kind of cool to have in here. Super nice. Maybe one little thing I'll do real quick is the image itself can have this same border radius. So then it doesn't look like it changes when we zoom in and zoom out. Definitely gonna get these product details in here. The ability to change colors would be nice too. We're gonna need that. That's gonna be tricky. Selecting a quantity, having prices, and clicking add to cart, and then showing our cart updated with a number. User accounts is a whole rabbit hole, but yeah, we've pretty much got something in place now. I'm super excited about this as well. Back button working. Yeah, looking to be a little bit dynamic and responsive, so super cool. If anybody needs help with any of this stuff, feel free to reach out. You can reach in the Discord server. And again, if you want to check out any of this stuff, you can find it at bigstick.store. You can pre-order this book. Yep. You can subscribe as well. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Maybe we'll add a pop-out feature like that. That might be cool. Maybe we add some search functionality too. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, appreciate everybody tuning in. Catch you guys